Thank you. This is one of the biggest topics, and it escalates very quickly. We know why, and we are actually very proud of this. So, okay, but it lasts 3 days. For example, some of the crises also last 3 days. But the idea of the presentation is maybe to show something and to discuss something more regarding all the facts that we collect for a given event or for a given discussion that allow us to evaluate whether the discussions in social media will escalate, whether the information will be disseminating faster, so that to know what is the level of the crisis and how to react and how to operate. Unfortunately, we are starting not with Bangaranga, but with Titanic. I don't know why I'm smiling when I talk about Titanic. It's not very polite. But anyway, the reason that we are starting with this situation is the fact that there were two clear stages of people reaction when the ship started to sink. In the first step, in the first part of this, a lot of people does not believe what is going to happen. And they simply refused to jump in, to leave the ship, etc. And the second, there was a panic, you know. And both of them are kind of extremes, and both of them we have to avoid. And my question is, and my thesis is, that we have to measure everything that is happening in the real life and in social media as well, so that to predict how people will react, and based on their comments, and what to do in a crisis situation, because there are a lot of Titanics today, and a lot of them are making big or small influence on a company's reputation. The idea of something we call the model that I will show you in a while, we have developed it in the Center for Analysis and Crisis Communication that we operate in Bulgaria. And this model can be developed according to, in each country, according to the level of dissemination of people, of number of media, etc., etc. But it's very important because, as can be seen here, the contemporary crises are very different from the ones that appear 20 years ago or 40 years ago, etc. They appear more often, and they develop faster, much faster. Second, they can become global very easily. And also, they can also not emerge only from accidents, but as well from bad communication or from a lack of communication. And maybe we should need a shift into understanding of how the crisis communications operates, and maybe what we have learned 20 or 30 years ago is not more valid, because 20 or 30 years ago, we were learned that silence is destructive, that we should need a communication in all channels so that prevents or that changes the opinion, etc. We should focus, and we should develop clear and very important messages, or one main message, and we should be consistent. Nowadays, it's impossible to do so because the information is spreading with the dramatic speed, and so we should, as I said, we should shift to a new paradigm, which is based on the very clear definition and very clear registration what is going on outside, so that not only to react, but not only to overreact, because overreaction is destructive. Overreaction on behalf of the companies can be disseminated as fast as the crisis could do, and the communication is done. Therefore, we need a careful selection of communication channels that we are going to disseminate our messages. We need also database communication. And also we need targeted messages for various stakeholders and, of course, persistency. Therefore, it lays in the understanding of what escalation is and how it should be understood. Okay, generally in conflict sciences, the escalation is defined as an increase of the intensity of dispute or a conflict. When we transform this into a crisis communication, we can say that this is related to the increase with engagement in social media and publicity, both in social media and traditional media as well. And our main task is to define, to diagnose what's happening, to make a clear diagnosis, and then to choose appropriate tools so that to react. Therefore, as I said, the PR professionals need to know what is the level of escalation of discussion in social media related to an event which become crisis, so that to decide whether to intervene, maybe they will stay silent, when to intervene, whether it is in the beginning of the crisis or the end of it. Maybe sometimes when we intervene by the end of crisis, there is no need to do anything because we will, our messages will remain only in our channels and they will not be disseminated. And of course, how to intervene, how to choose appropriate messages so that to make people or to change their opinion. And back to another crisis that happened last year. This is the robbery of Louvre. It was October last year, I suppose. But then the company which produces the trucks, the truck that was used from people to rob the Louvre, make this real-time marketing campaign saying, if you're in a hurry, please use our products. The idea why it is here is the fact that it should be predicted. They should know, and we should know if we post this kind of thing, that maybe the reactions will be polar. There will be people who will be very happy of that, and there will be people who will be very angry and saying that it's a matter of bad taste, etc., etc. The idea is not whether it is happening or not. The idea is to evaluate in the beginning how the people will react. Okay, what are the levels and the steps for measuring the escalation in social media? The first one, as we measure this in Bulgaria, so-called level of social tension. Later on, I will talk a bit more about this. The second thing which help us to define what is the level of escalation is the subject of the discussion and the topic of the crisis. The third thing is the first channel where the information appears, and the fourth, and of course, dissemination to other channels. The fourth thing is the tone of voice, and this is very important, the polarization of comments. I will share some insights a bit late. And the fifth thing is obviously the content of comments. Level of social tension is the whole sphere in a given society, and the level of tension or calmness. We say that measuring it means that it's much better to having it. We have a tool to understand whether the crisis or a given crisis will be developed more quickly, simply because people are angry or people are calm. Later on, I will show you a bit more about the measuring of this thing in Bulgaria. But here, let's say that the increase and decrease in social tension is not like that. It's not only up and down. It's related to different topics. Maybe if there are a political uncertainty, the level of social tension regarding politics will be will be high. And when the economic situation is stable, etc., the level of political tension of the economy will be very low. So it's like that, maybe. The second thing, as I said, this is a subject of discussion. Obviously, when there is a general dissatisfaction, when there are some consumer problems, when there are some other smaller things, the level, the power of escalation is much lower. In the medium intensity and medium escalation, when we have unexpected behavior, for example, when we have involvement of celebrities, and when we have a repetition of a problem, which is a clear sign for companies. If something appears very often, the first time is okay, the second is they escalate much quickly, the third escalate even more quickly, etc., etc. And obviously the high intensity of the escalation has all of the topics that are related to life and health, all of the topics that are related to global problems, and how they will be perceived in a given country, and obviously some trendy topics as well. The third one was related to the channels, and here we can measure some very important things. First, we are evaluating what is the intensity and what is the specifics of the first channel where this information appears or is published, audience reach, etc., etc. If the channel is big, the potential of escalation is bigger. If the channel is very small, some LinkedIn or Facebook groups which are local, professional, etc., the level of escalation is much lower. Then we could measure also the dissemination of channels, the dissemination of information in the channels of smaller and more professional audiences, which are local. Then, as a crisis communication, we could react only on those channels so that to keep the information within them, not to overspill, not to over-escalate. Then we could measure dissemination of information in channels with regional profile. They're more powerful. And finally, if the information is being disseminated very fast in the national channels, this could have a big potential for escalation. The fourth one is also very important. What we could see that the topics which divide society 50-50, agree or disagree, have much more potential for escalation than the other ones. For example, if there is a, let's say, Bangaranga, I like this song, I don't like this song. If there is 50% like this song, 50% does not like this song, the potential of escalation is higher because people who like and who does not like are arguing with each other. If it's 90% to 10, we could see and we could observe the appearance of so-called spiral of silence. This is a concept developed even in 60s years of 19th century, which says that this is a situation when people are becoming silent, stop expressing their opinions without giving up on them, and because they simply do not want to contradict with the more important and more disseminated public opinion. And this is a very bad situation because this means that these negative opinions, they don't stop to exist. Simply we don't see them. And we observe this situation, at least in Bulgaria, during the COVID and when the vaccination campaign or something like a campaign that we have in our country appears, because there were two big groups agree to vaccinate and disagree to vaccinate, and they were arguing with each other, and there were a much bigger group who were in the middle and who were a lot of people just simply do not want to do. But we didn't see their opinion. There were around 55% of them. But going back, yes, This is the worst situation. Also, we could observe what not only the number of positive and negative comments, but the reactions to positive and the reactions to negative comments. Then we could observe the level of polarization of opinions, and also the situation and the measuring what is the share of polarized opinions versus the balanced ones. Almost finally, we are examining the content of content when some people are showing indifference or brief agreement or brief disagreement. This has a very low potential to develop in social media. When they turn the situation on the bad things into a joke, this have so-called medium intensity, medium potential for escalation. If there are some single negative comments as well, or general statements. If there are call to actions, let's gather together, let's overthrow the government, etc., etc., or very angry statements or references to politics and economy, this has much higher potential to create additional discussions. A few words about the implication for companies. Of course, it influences the company reputation, but the much important influence of the company is not, of course, to preserve the reputation or to develop it, but also to know what to do in each step. And maybe, as I talk about the shifting of a paradigm, maybe at some point, in some crisis, we should remain silent if you see that there are a lot of people supporting our opinion, and we should leave, maybe, some of these discussions to fade away by themselves, since there are internal dynamics of it. But going back to the first one, we started measuring so-called social tension index in Bulgaria. This is the general and the big situation. Of the level of calmness or anxiety of people, which of course influences their reactions on given events and some other topics, inflation or etc., etc. So we develop a model. The values of this social tension index is from 0 to 10. Of course, it could never be a 0. But statistically, empirically, it could be. And we put also 21 indicators so that from different spheres, so that to measure it. There are in three groups: environment and governance, well-being, and publicity. And the third thing is also very important, and it's related to what we were just discussing. We have some experience in measuring it. The last social tension index is 6.88, which is high, and which is due to some political changes. Maybe the next one will be much lower, but this is just a wrap-up and the general statement about how we need and why we need to see what is happening in the society. Thank you very much. These are my contacts, and maybe...
Thank you very much, Alexander. That's fascinating. Right, I'm hoping that you're not going to disappear into a spiral of silence, and we have time for one question before our next keynote. Yes.
Yeah.
Did I understand correctly that the social tension index works on 20 plus parameters to convert all those parameters into this number?
Yes.
Can you again tell us a little more about these parameters and how do you pick up these parameters and quantify them?
Yes. So yes, they're into three groups. Some of them are related to the economic situation. We measure the inflation, the increase of the prices, or the perceived inflation or the perceived increase of the prices. We measure also some level of development of the society, like, for example, Gini index, the level of people without jobs. I don't remember the word. This is the first group. The second group is political. Time from forming the lasting government, trust to the government, trust to the different institutions within the government, Prime Minister, President, National Assembly, other institutions, ministries, etc. The level of confidence and trust according to them. I missed to tell you that, yeah, we measure also expectation. We measure also how much are the catastrophic events that are happening during the last 3 months. For example, fires or floods, something like that. And and the last thing is the publicity part. We measure negativity and dissatisfaction in media and social media, number of protests which are happening in the country, the share of negative comments in social media versus positive ones, share of positive publications under given keywords compared to negative ones, and reach of negative publications, reach of positive publications, and more or less it's like that. And each one of these 21 indicators have a weight from 0.1 to 0.4, because increase of the prices is more important, for example, than, let's say, trust to the president. And we tested this social tension index within 1 year, just to see before we launch it, so that everything to be okay, so that everything to go smoothly.
Thank you very much, Alexander.
Thank you.